Now I'm going to start this video by sharing this short clip with you. And this happened during a midnight mass that was broadcast all across Germany this Christmas. I mean, why the need to make everything so weird? Why can't we just stick with how it has always been depicted? I mean, what on earth is this supposed to be? And I googled it and I got this answer. This is a live adult performer wrapped in wet rice paper, representing a vulnerable infant Jesus in a nativity scene, aiming to symbolize human fragility and the delicate nature of God's entry into the world. I mean, it's all because of these modern times. We've become so comfortable with blasphemy, especially in Hollywood movies. Don't tell me I'm exaggerating. Hollywood is practically famous for it. Take the Avengers movies, for example. Let me share one with you.
You think I'm a child of Ultron?
You're not?
I'm not Ultron. I'm not Jarvis. I am.
I've had a vision. A whirlpool that sucks in all hope of life, and at its center is that.
What, the gem?
It's the Mind Stone. It's one of the 6 Infinity Stones, the greatest power in the universe, unparalleled in its destructive capabilities.
Then why would you bring it?
Stark is right.
Oh, it's definitely the end times.
The Avengers cannot defeat Ultron.
I am on the side of life. Ultron isn't. He will end it all.
Now don't tell me the scriptwriter don't know what they're doing when they include this in the scene.
I'm not Jarvis. I am.
We have been told many times by the exorcist that the devil knows his time is running out and he's not working alone. 1/3 of the angels fell with him, and they're using everything to bring as many people with them to hell.
Demons retain their rank when they fall, of course, because that's the way they're made. And so Lucifer is the top of the food chain, and then there's got a bunch of lieutenants, Beelzebub and Lilith and all these lieutenants in hell. Baal, there's a whole bunch of them who are his lieutenants, and then you go all the way down the chain into the smaller demons and the minor ones you never heard of. And they're probably untold number, billions, probably, maybe more, trillions, who knows, of fallen angels. So yeah, they retain their rank. And when we count a possessed person, there's someone's in charge. Typically, there's going to be a senior demon or higher ranking demon who is leading the pack. And unfortunately, if you get one of the bigger ones, like Beelzebub or someone like that, or Baal, you're in for a bigger fight. It's going to be more difficult to cast out one of these major lieutenants of hell. The Jesus does, of course, but it's a bit more of a fight.
And this scene reminds me of a particular clip on not taking the Lord's name in vain.
I am.
There's a commandment that says, thou shalt not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. It's not just one of the commandments, it's top 10. Like, it made the top 10 list. In fact, it's not just one of the top 10. It made the top 3 list. These are commandments, these are sins directly against God. The crazy thing is how so many of us completely disregard it and don't think of it as anything important. And I think in that way, we've been kind of influenced a little bit by our culture, because why? Because all around us, people are saying, oh my God. All around us, people are saying the name of Jesus Christ. All around us, people are taking the name of the Lord, our God, in vain. And it's become something normal. I mean, TV shows, movies, it's become normal. And the thing is, it's so interesting. I will talk to people who say, well, I don't take the Lord's name in vain. I sometimes say it without meaning it. I'm like, okay, well, that's what in vain means. Take the name of the Lord your God in vain means you're taking the Lord's name without meaning it. You're not giving it the reverence that it belongs to it.
And the acceptance speeches have been on fire. Who got shouted out the most? Let's look at the numbers. Cast and crew are leading the way with 11 mentions. Moms are holding strong with 3 shout-outs. God, creator of the universe, 0 mentions. And Mario Lopez, host of Access Hollywood, 1. All right.
It's taking the Lord's name and either stripping it of its meaning, using it meaninglessly, or using it as a false oath, or using it as a curse. So if my use of the name of God is that, like, no, it's just kind of slipped out, that's in vain.
Anyway, I've also included a few stories shared by the exorcist that you might find interesting. Let's start with this one.
I'll give you a case. Woman comes to us. She loved her grandmother, and her grandmother died. So she felt very bad about this, so she decided to contact her dead grandmother. So she took a pen and put it in her left hand. She's normally right-handed. And so she starts doing this divination thing. She starts this automatic writing. And for months, she got these beautiful letters from her supposed dead grandmother. And then about month 6, they went south. They got really ugly. And then she realized that entire time she was not talking to her grandmother. She was talking to a demon.
And there's a case study I want to share with you. And this only reminds me why I need to keep on sharing these warnings from the priests on witchcraft. And that is to counter this type of videos that are circulating out there.
Witchcraft isn't evil, and the Bible never said it was. My name's Cassandra, I used to be a pastor, and now I'm a pagan witch. You might have heard your whole life that witchcraft is evil, dangerous, or against the will of God. And I understand that's what many of us were taught. But when you slow down and you understand what those words actually mean in their original text, you find something surprising. The Bible isn't talking about modern witches at all. Over time, churches used those manipulated words to control and silence women who were healers, midwives, herbalists, or simply women who didn't obey men. They weren't evil, they were capable. They had authority that didn't flow through the church, and that made them a threat. Labeling a woman as a witch was a way to take her power and influence, and sometimes even her property. It had nothing to do with God and everything to do with control. Modern witchcraft today is about reclaiming lost practices that were demonized by cultural and political reasons, not because the divine condemned them. So if you're deconstructing and you're feeling called towards something older, more ancient, and more holistic, something earth-based, you're not evil. You're just stepping back into a path that humans have walked for thousands of years. And if someone tells you that the Bible forbids what you're doing, remember, they're using misquoted translations that were used to control. You're allowed to explore and you're allowed to find your own way. And most importantly, you're allowed to heal.
If one is active on social media, there are plenty of resources out there. Videos, interviews, podcasts, public lectures by Father Ripperger, Father Reehil's Battle Ready, Msgr Rossetti's monthly online deliverance sessions, and so many more. These experienced priests have covered the dangers of witchcraft in great detail, yet we still see people in the comment sections of these witches' videos claiming it's just church propaganda, meant to suppress women and keep them from reaching their full potential.
Do the demons you cast out during exorcism stay in hell, or do they return to possess others? First of all, demons don't have bodies, so they don't exist anywhere per se. They act in a certain place. They're purely spiritual beings. So, but it doesn't, that's neither here nor there. But when we cast them out, they stop acting in a person, but sadly, they will continue tormenting people until the final judgment. When the final judgment comes, Jesus will lock the doors of hell, and they won't. No one will get out. And someone asked me what happens to the souls of the damned in the final judgment. Well, the church teaches that those souls of the damned are damned for eternity, and I know it's hard to understand, but remember I talked about the importance of sanctity and being purified. You learn this in an exorcism, especially if you hold up a crucifix and you make the demons look at it, they suffer like crazy. They can't stand to look at it. It's a terrible torment. I did an exorcism about a month ago with another exorcist in Italy, and I sprinkled the person with holy water. And she started saying, "Oh, it burns." Well, it was tap water. It didn't actually burn her, but it burned the demons. You see, even just a little holiness, a little holy water. So what happens is that holy things are an incredible torment to the demons and to the damned because of their own sins. I mean, so if you were to take those demons, imagine taking those demons who can't stand to even look at a crucifix and put them in the presence of God, fully in heaven. It would be a suffering beyond. Hell actually sounds crazy, but actually is a compassion that it's the only place they can stand to be, because they can't stand to be in God's presence. So demons, second judgment, will be locked into hell forever. When we're cast out, they roam the earth, but trust in Jesus. So if I live a holy life, I will be protected. Someone asked me, if I hug a possessed person, will I get demons? I said, well, it's not like a virus, I mean, if you're living a holy life and would you go to confession, go to Mass and Communion, stay away from sin as much as possible, pray every day. If you're living a holy life, you're not going to get possessed, And most of the curses will just bounce off you. So I tell this story because it is very instructive. I listened to a witch, a converted witch, and she said she was given a job by Satan to curse all these Catholics in this one church. She did, and the sort of the lukewarm Catholics, the curses were somewhat effective. But the fervent Catholics, she said, bounced off them. Didn't even affect them at all. And that's when she knew that there was a power stronger than Satan. And of course, that's Jesus. When you live the faith, the curses just bounce off you. We're being cursed all the time by every witch, and we're being cursed all the time, but we're doing the Lord's working. So he's protecting us. Jesus has got your back.
And while I was putting this video together, I came across several videos of people claiming to be former Catholics and explaining to the whole world why they left the church. And so in regards to this, I would like to share this very good clip with you. There's a very good message shared here. Listen to this.
Christ gave us the church. I don't want to abandon that which God has given me because I think I can come up with something better myself, And I think that if Christ had said, I'm giving you a church that will be made up of perfect people and that there will be nothing wrong whatsoever in the human story after I give you the church. Then I would probably think, I don't know if this is true. I believe wholeheartedly that the church is God's perfect society, but God alone is what perfects the society. It's made up of imperfect humans. And it was the case when Jesus himself walked this earth. His followers, the first community of believers, were a mixed bunch. There was a mixed bunch. There was a denier of Christ who would become the first leader of the church in the Pope, being Peter. There was a betrayer in Judas. So I don't think that I'm surprised at all that today we're going to meet people in the life of the church who might deny Christ or even betray what is entrusted to them by Christ. It's sad every time it happens. It's scary. It's confronting. It's evil when someone abuses the gift that has been given to them by God, which is the gift of faith. When anyone uses what God has given for an evil end, it's a grave scandal. But we don't leave because of scandal. We need all the more to return to Christ. The answer is not to run away, but it's to cling and hold on even more firmly to Jesus, who alone can save us from the mess of the world, from the mess of our own lives at times too. And so there's a saying as well that you might have heard before, but it's, we don't leave Jesus because of Judas. But even in Jesus' own life, he also gave examples to the apostles when they were complaining about the behaviors of others. He gave them parables to help them understand, that the weeds and the flowers will grow up together. There'll be a time where they'll be separated. There'll be a time where it won't be as messy anymore. It won't be messy at all. And that's heaven. But until we get there, we have to trust. We have to trust that God is at work even when there are weeds growing in the garden. So I can really understand why people are put off wanting to go to church when they see Christians acting in sinful ways. That's something I can understand. That's really sad. In fact, the Catechism teaches as well that it's the sin of the Christian that is the greatest scandal in the world. That when we actually do the wrong thing, we're turning people off. We're meant to be the light in the world that Jesus says we are. And so it's important for us to live according to what we believe. But the reality is we're trying to live that life, and we don't always do it well. So I think there's a difference between sort of calling Christians in a blanket way hypocrites instead of calling them sinners. You see, I think we don't claim to be free from sin because we're Christian. And going to church is a way to overcome our sinfulness. So I think that's really important for people to recognize and to understand.
And I would also like to share this clip of Father Lampert with you. I really like what he shared in this one. Listen to this.
The creation of the angelic world is really not known. It was St. Augustine, again, who speculated that we can see the creation of the angelic world in the book of Genesis when God says, "Let there be light." When we think of light, we think of intellect. If you have a great idea, we say, the light came on. You might see a cartoon with a light bulb above somebody's head. So God said, let there be light. There was light and it was good. But then immediately the light was separated into day and darkness, but the separation wasn't called good. Now, this is the first day of creation. This cannot be the sun or the moon or the stars, because in the book of Genesis, they were not created until the third day. So what is this light that God said, let there be? So St. Augustine says he believed that it was the creation of the angelic world. And so God created the angels. He gave them this infused knowledge, and then basically said to the angels, with all the knowledge I've given you, will you now unite your free will with mine? And then the belief was that Lucifer, the greatest of the angelic creatures, a seraphim angel closest to the throne of God. The word seraphim means the fiery one. So if you're close to God, you're literally on fire for God. It's like getting close to a fire and catching fire yourself. But then Lucifer rejected that notion of glorifying God. And angels in a higher choir and influence angels in a lower choir. So when he chose to rebel against God, his rebellion reverberated through the 9 choirs of angels, and then 1/3 of them embraced his rejection of God. And then they were cast down to the earth. So that's where let there be light, there was day and darkness. The day would refer to good angels, the darkness to the bad angels who were expelled from heaven. And ultimately, the goal of the devil would be for humanity to make the same choice that he himself has made, namely the complete rejection of God. Angelic creatures cannot repent. Sometimes people wonder, could the devil ever say, I'm sorry? And in reality, the answer is no, because it would not even occur to the devil to say that. And it's because of their angelic nature. Again, when angels were created, they're in the presence of all that they can know. So the devil knew before the fall that one of the consequences of him saying no to God was eternal damnation. And yet, even with that knowledge, he chose it anyway. So a demon could never say, I didn't know that. A human person can. We can grow in our understanding and say, well, that was a dumb thing to do. I didn't know that. We can change and repent. But that's not true for an angelic creature. So demons cannot repent and good angels cannot fall. Their judgment has now taken place. But again, the devil would want humanity to join him in his rebellion against God. It's the notion that misery loves company.
Anyway, just before we get to the end of this video, I've also put together several short clips of Father Iannuzzi here for you. Let's start with Purgatory.
Speaking of Purgatory, it must be a really hot place, because there's a liquid fire. Not sure if you're aware of that. And just try to think of that for a moment. If you have in your veins fire, liquid flowing through your veins, you're going to feel hot. It's the experience of the souls in purgatory. They're being purged from within. Their whole entrails, whatever you want to call them, their spiritual body is being purged. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but there's actually, I think it's in France, an impression of a hand in a door in a convent of a soul from purgatory that appeared. And the person that the soul in purgatory was appearing to, asking for prayers, was asked by the soul, can you leave proof that you're truly from purgatory? And the soul put its hand on a door in the church of the convent. And to this day, it's a burn mark. You see the silhouette of the hand. I know there were a lot of, Father Gruchel, for example, whom I knew personally, he was against this whole idea that we should be afraid of purgatory. And he has a good point, because he says it's God's love that's igniting those flames. And I say, yes, Father Benedict, but there's still flames. But there are different levels in purgatory. You have the highest, there are 3 major categories according to the saints, 3 major levels in purgatory. And the highest level, close to heaven, there's no physical pain, no physical suffering, no fire. It's just the absence of God, which is in itself a torment for the soul that's being drawn to him but can't see him. But in the lowest level, which is close to hell, according to the writings of these saints, the sufferings are just as intense as those of hell. But with one difference, they say, there's hope. that they're not condemned. There's hope. But the sufferings are almost identical to the sufferings in hell. And in hell, we know what the sufferings are based on the descriptions of the Council of Trent. There's cold and there's heat. There's both extremes. And then the soul, of course, is purged according to whatever sins it entertained or the faculties used in those sins on earth. So let's say it stole, its hands, right, would be purged. Or if it went to illicit places, its feet would be purged. Or if it harbored evil things in its heart, its bosom will be purged. If it spoke bad of other people, its tongue would be purged.
And for the second clip of Father Iannuzzi, here will be on the end times and also on the intermediary coming of Christ.
Now, I was asked also to address some questions concerning the day in which we live in these end times, and I would like to address them publicly. And these questions are anonymous, of course. Now, one of the questions is, Our Lady, the Blessed Mother, who gives birth to the infant Jesus, has been appearing a lot in these end times, preparing us for not the first coming of Christ, which took place 2,000 years ago, but an intermediary coming of Christ that is about to happen, which is not to be confounded with the final coming of Christ, which is at the end of the world and the general judgment. No, this intermediary coming of Christ prophesied at Fatima, prophesied in various writings of the doctors and mystics and saints, is an interior reign of the Trinity within the intellect, memory, and will of the human being. Now, this period will last a long time. Revelation chapter 20 talks about this. So the question is it true that we are living in the end times and that the Blessed Mother said that many cardinals, bishops, and priests are taking many souls with them to hell? First of all, yes, we are living in the end times. The end times doesn't mean the end of the world. What does it mean, the end times? It means the end of the time of the reign of the human will. Those times we are living in today. We are about to enter into the times of God's will reigning in man, in the end time of the human will. And we are awaiting, therefore, a new Pentecost. This is an expression used by both saints, Pope John the 23rd and John Paul II. Both spoke of a new Pentecost about to occur. And Pope John Paul II associated it with the third millennium of Christianity, which is the seventh millennium since the creation of Adam. Just as God rested on the seventh day, and just as a day to God is like 1,000 years and 1,000 years like a day, so God will rest in the seventh millennium with creation. So Saint Faustina, a 20th century Polish mystic, says that before the day of justice, God is sending the day of mercy. And this is why Jesus called Faustina in these end times. Now, with respect to prelates going to hell and taking many souls with them, let us recall that while God predestines no one to go to hell, this is found in the Catholic Catechism, Article 1037, the Council of Florence acknowledges that humans who do not abide by the true faith are indeed lost for eternity. The Church also teaches that at the moment of death, the soul's judgment is immediate. And this word immediate comes from the Councils of Florence and Lyons. It's also found in the Catholic Catechism, Articles 1022 and 1035, and it acknowledges the existence of hell and its eternity. Catholic Catechism 1035. Throughout the writings of several church-approved mystics, including those of Faustina and others, we know that hell is an eternal place. And Faustina speaks of it too in her entry 741 in the Diary of Divine Mercy. Now, with respect to prelates taking souls to hell, it is incorrect to assert that the sinful actions of one person, take for example a cardinal, a bishop, a priest, are the direct cause of the loss of the soul of another. This is wrong. It is incorrect to assert that the sinful actions of one person are the direct cause of the loss of the soul of another person. It is correct, however, to affirm that one person may be the direct cause of depriving another of God's special or extraordinary graces, and the indirect cause of another's possible damnation. And I use the word possible because each person's free and intended choices directly decide his or her own destiny and not those of another. I cannot condemn you to hell. Your worst enemy cannot condemn you to hell. So how can you say that a cardinal or a priest can condemn people to hell? They can't. But what they can do is they can deprive another soul, and this doesn't apply just to cardinals or prelates. It applies to lay parents as well, and lay people as well. They can deprive another of God's special graces. For example, an evildoer's immoral actions frustrate the flow of grace into another soul. This is found in 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 26, right? You see, sin has an interpersonal dimension. One person's sins necessarily impact another. St. Paul suggests this when he affirms, when one member of the body suffers, all suffer. At Fatima, when Mary opened the earth and revealed to the 3 shepherd children a vision of hell, she affirmed, many souls are going to hell because there are not enough people to pray for them. So actual sin has an interpersonal dimension. Our lack of prayer can lead them, can cause a soul to be lost. That's true. But we're not putting them there, you see. Their own choices do, but on account of the graces or lack thereof that we could have obtained for them. When combined with penance, prayers, our lives can be efficacious in the conversion of sinners and even the salvation of hardened souls at the moment of death. And I always recall this example of the little flower, Sainte Thérèse de Lisieux, who prayed for the conversion of a notorious unrepentant killer, Henry Pranzini, prior to his death by guillotine for his murderous crimes. The little flower, she had a newspaper in the convent, and she read that he was about to be beheaded, which was the capital punishment in France at the time. So she prayed very intensely for several days. And on the day of his execution, she wanted to know whether or not she had snatched his soul from hell. So she read the paper after he died, the following day, in fact, after his death, and recorded how, when he was about to put his head in the guillotine, he replied. This is what she writes. In quotes, he turned, took hold of the crucifix the priest was holding out to him, and kissed the sacred wounds 3 times. Now, if a hardened sinner can be saved at the moment of his death on account of a special grace obtained on behalf of that person through the intercession of a saint, that was necessary for that person's salvation, all the more is this possible through the prayers of holy anointed prelates, who by virtue of their sacramental vocation are entrusted by God with thousands of souls, of the obligation we all have of administering grace to others through our example, through our rectitude of life, through our prayer life, through our selflessness, through our almsgiving and so forth.
And this is going to be the last clip in the compilation this time, and I hope all of you have learned so much from our session together this time. Listen to this.
And this is a teaching of the magisterium of the Church. Knowledge in and of itself without action is sterile, does not produce life, does not produce living. That's life. Consider Lucifer, right? Faustina. Saint Faustina said, even the demons in hell acknowledge that God exists, but they do not serve him. So knowing is twofold. Somebody can know something like the demons know God exists, but do not serve him. That is called cognitive knowledge, abstract knowledge. It doesn't serve anyone anything, except just knowing it, and that's it. It's very sterile. Then, in addition to cognitive knowledge, there's experiential knowledge, which is lived.
And that is it for the video this time, and I just want to thank all of you for taking the time to be here and for your continuous support this year, and I really hope all of you have learned a lot here. And remember, if ever you have any feedback or suggestion, please let us know in the comments below. Anyway, if you like what we do and you'd like to support us, I left a link to our PayPal donation in the description box below, and from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for your continuous support, contributions, and prayers. And until the next one, thanks again for watching, and may God bless you.